Welcome to the Engineering Emotions and Energy Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Wink. Today, I have a very special guest, friend of the show, from one of our most downloaded episodes of all time, the brilliant, the amazing Nida Kazmi. And today, we are going to be talking about the most fucked out spiritual terms that we've come across, and we're going to set the record straight on how we understand them so that you can understand them, because if someone says something and you don't understand it, it's worthless. It's no good. It's of no benefit. So we're going to be demystifying things like meditation, karma, manifesting, soul, spirit, vibration, all these things. And we'll probably get into more. So I'd like to welcome Nida. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, man. Thank you. That was one hell of an introduction. Tying me to all these bullshit terms.
Well, I'm tying you to the ability to make them clear and make them easy to understand, because I know you're a no bullshit person. And these words, I love all these words. I use all these words, but people use these words, and if you were to ask a lot of people, like, well, what do you mean by that? They would probably give you something that actually has nothing to do with the ultimate intention, like manifesting. Let's just start there since I just said it. People will often mistake manifesting for like, I get shit done, I make stuff happen, I'm manifesting that. And I don't know, to me that is not actually what it means. It's like, yes, things do happen, but not probably in the way many people actually end up doing it when they use this term.
That's very true. To just backtrack for a second. So those of you who didn't catch it, Justin is a master reframer. It's a very, very good technique to use with people who are maybe stuck in some sort of thought about a particular situation or an event. And he just used that reframe on my comment. So go back, if you didn't catch it the first time, catch it again. And it does tie into manifesting too, because how you think about something is how you ultimately end up, quote unquote, manifesting something. But what does it mean, right? Like the way we've used it in the spiritual community is like manifesting basically means abracadabra. Here's what I magically apparated into my life. And to most people, including someone like my husband, who is a very logical thinker, it makes no sense whatsoever. But manifesting is actually, it's like a formula. It's like a culmination of the actions you take mentally, emotionally, and physically to then bring about the thing that you want in your life. So, when we say like, okay, I want to bring about what is it that people typically want? A Lamborghini, $1 million, the perfect partner.
The love of their life. Yep.
Yeah, the love of their life. Okay, let's talk about that one, because I've got really good experiences.
She does. I've been hanging out with Nida and her husband, and like they are just delightful together. It's just like, yep, she manifested the man of her dreams, and he's my man of my dreams too. After getting to hang out with him, like just so. That's the other thing, is that like, if it's truly you're manifesting something of good, it's good not just for you, but everyone that comes in contact with you.
Right. Because I remember, my cousin is now still married to her husband now for 9 years. The other cousin, whose husband I also really admire, she's been married to that guy for 10 years. So I remember before being married to my husband now, I always looked at these men thinking, wow, like I really wish my men had these, my husband has these qualities. Mm-hmm. And they weren't qualities of like, wealth per se. That's not what I went for. It was how they treated their wives, how they spoke, the kind of integrity they had, the kind of consistency they had, and how they showed up as partners, right? It wasn't about, oh, he's so good looking and he's so hot. Like he got so much money.
Well, and then there would be the corresponding feeling that you would see them being, as the wife, the feeling that they would get to experience being with that husband, mm-hmm. like that feeling love, feeling joy, feeling, safe, those
supported.
Things. Yep.
And so completely, ultimately for women, the most important feeling is being secure in the relationship, right? Mm-hmm. So having said all of that, when I came about to like finally being settled enough in my emotional self to like figure out like, okay, who do I actually want to manifest? We were discussing this yesterday, like how did I actually quote unquote manifest my husband? And there were a series of things that I did. It wasn't just abracadabra. There was the emotional mindset. So being prepared to allow someone and welcome someone into your life involves not just, so-called healing work, air quote healing work and air quote wound care and all that stuff. You're sitting there and taking care of major bad habits that you have. You're taking care to practice the things in your life that are reminiscent of having a partner in your life. So Justin actually reminded me of something that I did and I totally forgot, which was I used to set the table for two.
Right. Yeah. So preparing for the inevitable future. It's kind of like, it is kind of like the equivalent of ordering something on Amazon. Like it's coming. Like if you're gonna order, that bookshelf, you can start ordering the books and the knickknacks. Like it might be a day or two late, but it's Amazon. You're gonna get that bookshelf. So start clearing the space in the room and getting ready of what you're gonna. Have your tools ready because it's coming. It's coming, and that's sort of what manifesting is, and not like I gotta make this happen, but like no, it is happening. You might not know how it's gonna happen. You just know it is. But it's not dumb luck, and it's not work till your eyes bleed, and if you're gonna hurt yourself or kill yourself. It's in some ways that middle way of you're certain and you see it and you feel it, and you do have to do things. Like she said, she was setting the table. That is a physical action. You can't just sit on your ass and expect it to like magically. It's possible, but it's probably going to take way longer if you literally just sit on your ass and just have manifesting thoughts and feelings.
I agree. And it's a perfect segue into the next thing I did too, because, is setting the table literally going to drop that guy or woman like out of the sky? No, fuck no. Like I get what I'm saying. Like it's not, sounds really crazy even up to, this point. So then one of the other things I did was make the decision to start selling off my excess furniture that I knew be moving eventually in the future, whenever this husband comes along, what kind of things would I be selling off and getting rid of? So I spent a great deal of time selling off excess furniture and valuable items that I knew that I wasn't using, tremendous amount of time decluttering the house just piece by piece. Whether it was a closet at a time, a drawer at a time, or like entire like carloads of, things that needed to be donated. And people used to ask me like, and then I just started packing up my stuff too. And people were asking me like, where are you going? I'm like, nowhere. I don't even know where I'm going. I had zero plans at that time.
But you were ready.
I was ready to go. I made sure I was ready to go. Actually, I'll talk about this later, but the time between when I started doing these things like packing up and, setting the table for two, and when I met my husband was only like from April to September. Yeah. So it's like half a year.
Yeah. Which, in some ways it's like, 6 months, that's it. But in the grand scheme of your life to, get exactly what you wanted for a very important part of your life, that's like nothing, right?
No.
And the other thing that you mentioned to me that we haven't talked about is that you not only listed out like what would be the external qualities you're looking for, but then what would your qualities be to be a good match for that? Who would you have to be? Like what were your qualities or what were the things in your life? And then those are some of the actions you started to take, like that probably did result in the, let me sell off this old stuff that is just weighing me down. Cause it's like the person that's with this ideal person, like they don't have a bunch of furniture they got to worry about. They are ready to go. Like that person's looking for someone ready to go.
Well, and ironically, when I did end up meeting my husband, he had to move directly to New York City because of his job. And so none of these things would have been used in our apartment in New York City anyway. Right. Yeah. So and it's funny because when you ask me this question of like, well, how did you know that, doing this would help you? It's like, or like, how did you know selling your stuff would help you get the person? You don't know. But what I do know is that the laws of physics, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, physics and quantum mechanics, is that the universe has to fill a void. There is no voids in the matter. What is it?
Yeah, I think I just saw, and I didn't read the whole article, so you can bash me, but it was something where like if there's a total vacuum in an area, there starts to be like almost I can't remember the term they used. It was like virtual protons and neutrons, like stuff literally gets created in an absolute vacuum. Like there has to be something, down to the small level. And so, out of the Kabbalion, which is an ancient text, there's a as below, so above, as above, so below. So it's like if something happens on a small scale, it ideally should work on a large scale. And more science is starting to show some of this stuff, that if it does happen at the smallest scale, it happens at larger scales. And even larger scales.
So that was the thought behind the packing up of the stuff. Like, okay, well, if I make room, then, I'm just, by getting rid of these things, I'm just making more room for this person to welcome him into my life. Like, he did not need to come into all my clutter.
Yeah.
So then back to your point about, or your question about like qualities between, him and me. And I explained this to you, but I wrote a letter, to whomever, you could call it God or universe, like explaining and describing my whole relationship with this Mr. Right that I called the letter. I still keep it, and it was a 4-page letter that describes all the qualities, whether they were physical qualities or mental qualities of the person, but also the qualities of our life. Like, how do we live? What kind of activities do we engage in? Where do we live? What does the house look like? What's surrounding the house? What kind of work do we both do? What kind of, activities are we engaged in separately and together? And there was a lot of things. And I can honestly say that the majority of that letter came true. Some few things that did not are not because they are not part of this life. We're working on those together. And there's a few that I just never needed.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know any better. But the most critical aspect or component of this letter writing exercise was the corresponding letter from this man, the one that I described, to, God or whomever, explaining what his wife is like and what his life with his wife is like. And then I went back through that whole letter saying, what is this woman like and where am I not like her? And fortunately, by that point, I had done enough, work. And there's that word, the work, that I felt like I didn't have any massive deficiencies compared to that character. But I knew there were 2 or 3 things that I had to work on, which I did, which ultimately came in extraordinarily handy and were required for my now relationship. But I didn't know any of this. I was just going by my faith of, well, this kind of person wants this kind of a, woman.
Yeah.
And that's who I'll try to be.
And some people might go faith, that's like a religious thing. If you don't like faith, go with trust. And if you don't like trust, go with the opposite of fear and worry. Because most people are really good at fear and worry, but that's just you're having a certainty about an unknown future. So why not have a certainty about an unknown future that is at least good for you? And that's where, faith, trust ultimately is like this good thing. Amazon's got my back. So if it works for Amazon, why not for, who you want? And so I think the one last is you mentioned that it is like a formula, which reminds me of a recipe. And a recipe, a lot of the stuff works, but you do sometimes have to make adjustments based on the equipment in your kitchen. Mm-hmm. And each of us has our own little distinct, that oven that runs a little hot, or, that gas stove that heats up faster than, somebody's electric, something like that. So there are going to be individual changes to the formula or the whatever. And I do want to move on because we've got a lot of other good topics.
We do,
go ahead.
I was going to say this was actually a perfect segue into talking about meditation, because one of the last things I also did to manifest my husband was to do the AUM meditation with Sadhguru. And so, like you said, there's a formula, there's series of things I did physically, like the packing, moving, selling, things I did mentally, like all the, work around my personality and things, that weren't going to work for a relationship. And then like this other stuff like meditation. So that was one of our next topics is what does meditation even mean?
Yeah, because almost anyone that's, been in any form of unhappiness, or if you're happy, but you're just around unhappy people, which probably now covers everybody and anybody that could be listening right now, you're going to come across meditation as like, well, this is the way to, reduce stress. It's going to allow you to get insights. It's going to have all these benefits. And yes, they are all true, yet often we get wrapped up in, oh, this is just now one more thing I need to do. It's like you're supposed to be eating the right foods, you're supposed to be doing the right exercises, and now you got to have the right meditation practice, and it starts to be one more thing that we are lacking and we're not good enough because we think that that meditation is an activity. And to me, it's not an activity, it's a state of mind, and any state of mind can be accessed instantly. So why are there these practices? Because like most things, if we're not used to it, we need some help getting there and seeing it and then staying there. And so these practices can help us, but it's not 100% necessary that you do the right one all the time or whatever. So Nida, your thoughts on...
I think I spent years trying to meditate, and one of the things with my personality is I hate people telling me what to do and how to do it. I just hate it. So when people told me I had to meditate a certain way, it's the same thing as like telling me how to pray a certain way. Like in our culture, like, oh, if you're praying and then your toes aren't faced exactly this way and your hands aren't spread like this, and your prayer isn't accepted. Like, are you really? You're telling me that this magnificent God that you call Allah is going to sit there and go, your toes weren't pointed this way, therefore I deny thee.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is that sometimes we start mixing a lot of things up, and meditation is part of, in some ways, some form, a lot or most major religions. And so there can be religious components to meditation, but that is not necessary to get the benefits of meditation, which is a state of being. And if we focus on, well, what is that state of being? And it really is just like a deep relaxation where you have access to, sort of your intuition, to, the calm peace, and to the present moment, like right now. Because usually most of us spend most of our life, and it can be actually measured when you are in a quote unquote meditative state by the frequency of your brain waves. Because usually when we're out and about doing our thing, we're in, I like to call the busy beta waves, which are a faster frequency of brain waves, which is like focus, and I got to think about this, I got to analyze this, worry this. Whereas when we slow it down to the alpha waves and then gamma, the mind slows and we're able to access a lot more that's going on, and you're able to feel better. It slows down. We get out of the sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system, so there's a lot of health benefits. But then also you have space between your thoughts and you, and you're like, what the fuck does that mean? Because you're the one hearing what I'm saying right now. You're not the one having the thoughts. Don't worry about it. We're going to move on. It'll sink in or not. We're going to move along.
No, that was part of the challenge is, you assume that whoever's telling you these things of how you should be meditating and how it should be for you is somebody who's far more experienced and you're not. Therefore, this is the truth. This is the truth of meditation, but it's not. Now we're at the point where, you and I can go into trance state in seconds, and we know exactly how to access certain things. We've learned to rely on, when we're in trance state, or what I call theta state, you're just using a very deep, slow, quiet space in your mind to access information from, what we can call your own soul or your higher self, or sometimes I even get to talk to animals and plants.
Yeah.
And once you get used to it, suddenly it's not so out of reach and intangible and weird. I know my husband, when he first heard about it, he just couldn't wrap his head around it. And then I told him that, once you get used to it, it's just as natural as sliced bread. There's nothing weird or nothing unusual about it. But it's how the process of how people make you feel like you have to go through these infinite hoops to like get through particular levels. Like there's no levels. It's just your desire and your acceptance of where am I and how far can I go?
Feeling overwhelmed by the daily grind? Imagine if you could pause, reset, and truly connect with a calmer, more fulfilled you. It's not just a dream, it's absolutely possible. Hi, I'm Justin, and I invite you to discover the life-changing techniques in my book, Engineered to Love. Right now, I'm offering a free chapter complete with guided audios that have already helped so many people find peace amidst the chaos. These aren't just any techniques. They're transformative practices designed to help you love yourself and engage deeply with the present moment, without even having to close your eyes to the world around you. So join us at engineeredtolove.com/sample and access your free guided session. It's time to bust the busyness and embrace the joy, ease, and love in your everyday life. Don't wait. Start your journey to a more relaxed and recharged you today, because you deserve to live a life you love. Visit engineeredtolove.com/sample. See you there.
Yeah, and not to say there isn't benefit, but once you start from, this is a simple state of being, and then you can start doing more practices, longer practices. But when you come from that, now I can just get more benefit, because you can consciously choose, which practice and for how long and why am I doing it? What am I trying to get out of it? Because you're not trying to get somewhere. You can get to where you are instantly, and then you can just bring in more of what you want. So like being in the meditative state, that's a great place to be when you're going to like recall the things that you might be doing from what your manifesting activities are, because you're going to be much able to, have those emotions that you want tied in with those thoughts and those features. And the other thing, is sort of like you mentioned of having, abilities or perceptions, is that often we think that whatever we think, that is true. But being in the meditative state, it puts the thinking, the logical mind in its proper context. And we're actually able to, have all of these other perceptions. Our body has all these other ways of, there's the touch, there's the smell, there's all these, but there are other things that can be sort of detected, inferred, and we don't have to get into how that is or what that is at this point. But there's other things that you can perceive that go beyond the logical mind and our traditional senses. And you don't have to believe that or not. It's just something you can start to play with once you get into this state. But if you can't get into this state, then that monkey mind, that just constant thinking, I've learned this and I think this, that state of mind, this is actually going above that and allowing you to go like, what else is there? It allows you to choose the ultimate you, not just the thinking you, that little chitter chatter of like, this guy's crazy, this woman's crazy. I know this because my teacher said that, and my parents say this, and my brother said that. Like, it's going beyond that and going like, yeah, well, that's one thing. What else is there? There's a whole smorgasbord. There's not just the, I don't know, we just had lunch. There's not just the biscuits and gravy.
Yeah. And meditation is ultimately like, if you just really want to simplify it, meditation is it's a means to just relax. It's a dedicated time that you're taking, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. I don't care.
Yeah.
You're just taking it to relax.
And that is actually the most powerful state you can be in, period. Like, we all think that, I got to be focused and agitated. It's like, that has its times. And if you can be in that meditative state more often, you will pick the appropriate times and for how long in the activities, so that it has its place. But that's not where you want to live. I came up with like a really good metaphor for this. So it's like driving. Our mind is like a race car, or let's just say a regular car, like a Toyota Corolla, and it has the ability to redline and go 85 miles an hour. But you shouldn't keep it there. It's going to break down. It's going to have a lot of harm. But you have that ability, and that's what the focused beta brain waves. That's like, you want to pass on a 2-lane highway, and you got a short amount of time. You got to get it done, and it's necessary. But you don't want to be driving like that all the time. You want to chill out, put on the cruise control, so then you can figure out where you want to go, what you're looking at, and enjoy things, and then really make sure you're going there. Because if you're just going boom, 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 you're likely going to miss your exit, right? And so many of us miss the exit. We don't even know where we want to go because we're so busy going. We forgot to, actually set the coordinates of the GPS.
Right.
So when we relax, we have the ability to think, well, where do I want to go? Set the directions, and then go. And if necessary, boom, we go into that, red line, 85, 100 mile an hour for short bursts to help us to get to where we actually want to go.
I mean, I know I always admire people who, you meet people who are just always relaxed, like they never freak out about anything. And I'm always in awe because I feel it, an aspect that's lacking in me, because my brain is usually on the go.
Yeah.
So yeah, this meditation is a tool. And then, meditation is a tool of manifestation. And I kind of want to lead this into the karma subject that we had laid out, because
let's talk karma.
Yeah, like a lot of people talk, about karma as, it's your destiny, it's written out for you, like you're doomed, man.
She can do that accent because she's Pakistani, so and an asshole.
Well, believe it or not, I agree, but believe it or not, Do you remember Apu in the Simpsons show?
Yep.
That whole accent was done by the white dude.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but yeah. Anyway, so meditation.
And Bart Simpson's voice, a woman.
A woman. That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
The Simpsons is very unwoke lately.
Despite all their pretty accurate projections. Weirdly enough, I don't know if any of that's true, though.
Predictions of didn't they predict the Trump presidency? And
they predicted quite a few things.
Yeah.
Kobe's stuff too, actually.
Yeah,
really sad. But yeah, so karma is considered as like this ultimate destiny, but that's not what karma actually is.
Well, the other common thing is like it's kind of this. You do good, you'll get good. You do bad, you'll get bad. So it's like something bad, like, oh man, you must have some bad karma. You did something bad, or like, oh, I should give to charity.
Lifetime, you did something bad, so the karma is coming back to you in this lifetime.
Yeah,
it's like I pretty much don't think that God is that kind of a being that's going to be like, oh, you go to hell like in this lifetime because you did this and that one, like. The math doesn't work out that way. So when it came to meditation, and I was talking a little earlier about how I meditated as part of like my so-called formula to manifest my husband, it wasn't that I was sitting there manifesting on, please give me a husband, or this is the kind of man I want. It was the most opposite thing you could think of. Like I went into meditation and I would ask myself that what do I think would it make me feel to have such an extraordinary husband or partner? And I knew that the feelings that I was seeking were of joy, security, and comfort, right? And when I thought about what things gave me those feelings of joy, security, and comfort, I did those things. So for example, I love sitting on a cold day with a blanket wrapped around me and a cup of like hot cocoa or coffee, and holding that warm mug with the blanket on the floor with my cats and having all of those things with me is what gave me joy, comfort, and security. And so I would feel and tap into those experiences, or like reading a good book at my favorite coffee shop, whatever it was. I would tap into those feelings, or I would recreate those scenarios and really be in those moments. And that emotional state is what actually manifests the thing that you desire into existence.
Well, and the other, I think, important point is that you're creating what you want kind of from a blank slate. Because you mentioned Sadhguru, and he's got a new book called Karma, all about it. And one of the explanations I really like of how he sort of describes it, is it's in describing like where does karma come from. And so in some ways, if you go to a lot of the creationists, even Adam and Eve, and in Hinduism and probably a lot of others, that basically there was there ends up being sort of like a fall, or something happening. And so it's like, well, what happened? Well, so the beginning is basically like a blank slate of pure intelligence. So basically anything can happen, and then out of that comes memory, and the memory is karma. And so one way to think of karma is it's memories of of everything that came before you. If you had no memories of anything would be possible, which is where pure intelligence would start from. But once you start having a memory, you start having to want continuity, and you start having dependencies based on those memories, because it's like you are every day who you are because you remember who you were the day before. Usually what we do today is very similar to what we did the day before, which is similar to the day before, similar to the day before. But there's really no reason. There's nothing physically that stops most people, short of if you're in a prison and physically, from just someday waking up with whatever resources and just going to anywhere else and starting a different life. There really is. It's totally 100% possible. Why do you not do it? Because you didn't do it the day before. And so kind of what you're talking is you're creating from sort of a blank slate, letting things go, and like, well, what do I want that has nothing to do with who I am today and who I was the day before that. So that's sort of the letting go of your, allowing the settling of the karma, not adding the new things. Because often we, and then there's like, oh, you're adding to your karma. That's to me, the way I think of that is it's like you have these memories of how you do things, habits, habitual patterns, and it's basically you start reinforcing stuff. And one of the things he said is like, oh, I'm not focusing on like, where's my future husband? Where's my future husband? Because what does that do? That just reminds you, I don't have a husband, which is reinforcing that pattern and keeping your karma, bigger, because now it's even more of a habit to not have the husband you want.
Yeah, I mean, and that kind of falls into quote unquote the law of attraction, which was one of those jargon terms and words that we hear that really don't make any sense, because the more you introspect and focus on what you do and don't have, is the more it comes back to you. But ultimately, the reason for that is that the more you focus on something in any which direction, the more emphasis you're putting on it, and the more emphasis you put on it, you put that thing out of balance in the universe. Just like the universe, always has to fill a vacuum or a void, it also always has to keep things in balance. So how do you do that? Like, well, she keeps saying, I want a husband. There's this overemphasis. The scales, are tipping on one side. So how do I balance it? Well, you tip the scales to the other side to balance it out by not giving the husband.
Yeah. And the other, I'll take it to the, a little bit more concrete look at the subconscious that's your autopilot, because it's doing all the stuff while you're not consciously thinking of it. And so if you give it the instructions, it'll do whatever it can to make that happen. And when you're saying, I want the car, I want the better, it's going like, oh, okay, the instruction is to want this thing. If you get the thing, then you won't want it anymore. So you got to be really careful and kind of act as if, oh, I have this thing, this is already true. And it will go like, well, wait, we're supposed to have this. We need to figure out how to have this. Whereas if you just want it, it'll figure out how to want it, which is a state of not having it.
Yeah.
Like it's a really messed up. And that's the other reason of don't say don't or negatives on things, because the mind just does not process this. There's an interesting stat I saw that is basically like if you look at accidents on like a deserted highway where basically there'll just be a telephone pole like once every mile or something. So, if somebody's, drunk, falls asleep at the wheel, like, if you just go by the size of the telephone pole and the distance between the next telephone pole, it would be like a less than 1% chance that you would hit the telephone pole. But what they've seen is it's usually like 80% of people that, fall asleep or start to veer off the road, they hit the lone telephone pole. Why? Because they get conscious, they see the telephone pole and they start saying, don't hit the telephone pole, don't hit the telephone pole. And the mind just goes, hit the telephone pole. And they hit the telephone pole. So avoid the telephone pole, drive into a comfortable place where you can safely come to a stop. You want to always frame it as what you want.
Yeah. And I think, speaking of framing things as what you want, there's a huge industry behind all of this that I think has bastardized and completely distorted meanings behind certain things. Like we created some words to put some meaning behind certain aspects of spirituality or to explain intangible things. But I think they became these like subtopics of such intense focus that they become completely bastardized in the translation. So something like, for example, feminine and masculine energy.
Oh yeah, you can really piss some people off now if you start using those terms. And you, if I don't know that I'm in agreement with somebody on those terms, I will try to speak more to, I won't even use those words. I'll try to just use the qualities that I mean.
Yeah.
Because if I just go to that, some people just get really freaked out and go like, what do you mean? Like, oh, the woman can do that, or, men aren't that way. And it's like,
oh, geez.
And it's like, we got to know the context and, because, words have different meanings in different contexts. So masculine doesn't just mean has a penis, and feminine doesn't mean has a vagina. Like, we all have masculine and feminine qualities, and sort of the sense we're talking about. So was there any more you wanted to?
No, there's a few more, that and I'm not going to expand on them per se, but I think
we're into we're moving on to miscellaneous terms that annoy us.
I wanted to talk about these miscellaneous things, under the subject of like things that are there in the spiritual world, but that ultimately just make you feel less about yourself. But these are things to watch out for that, you can talk about them in your podcast on another day. But, there's things like authenticity. Man, if there ever was a word that was like overused and abused, it's authenticity. There's things like healing, inner child and mother wound or inner wounds and that kind of stuff. There's also vibration. I don't think any of the vibration, it makes zero sense to my husband. What the hell do you mean by vibration? Whereas if I just said, oh, like that person, I don't feel like they'd be very kind to me when they talk to me. So I just don't want to hang around them. And that's something that makes a lot of sense to my husband. Yeah. All of a sudden. And then there's just other things like abundance, law of attraction, self-love and care, and a sign from the universe. And so all of these things I think are watch outs, like see them, read them, understand them for what they are, but don't self-inflict upon yourself some sort of unguided pressure that really actually has no tangible meaning and tangible goals and outcomes. But stick to the things that will work for you. Yeah.
So I'm gonna give all of you permission. So if somebody says like, what are you doing? You're like, Justin Wink of the Engineering Emotions Energy podcast, he said I could do this. I give you all permission that if you hear one of these terms and it hasn't been explained to you by the person, you can go, what do you mean by that? Someone goes like, hey man, you gotta have the prosperity mindset. Don't just go, oh yeah, you're right. I got it. You're like, well, what do you mean by that? What does that mean to you? Because depending on who's saying it, they could have it very dialed down and have really good meaning, or they could just be basically they've just painted over their same bullshit with a different color of spray paint, but it's it's a different color, but it's still gonna stink, and you don't want it. So always ask like, what do you mean? What do you mean by low vibration? Because people would just use that as just another way for like, oh, I don't like that, I like this, which is not what vibration's supposed to be about at all. From my experience, it's supposed to be like, well, how inclusive, how close to living a life from a position more of love as opposed to grasping or needing or whatever, sort of a more higher level, all inclusive. That's what I would consider high vibration. And so if someone's high vibration, they're probably not going to criticize anybody. They're not going to go like, I can't stand that person in their life. They'd probably just go like, that's person's just, not for me. I feel more comfortable doing this activity.
I mean, to me, like the ultimate high vibration person is someone like Sadhguru, or I have a couple of aunts in my family. They're not actually related to us. They happen to be family friends, dear family friends. Their approach with me, and I can only speak to my experience with them, right? The way they've always spoken to me and treated me is like, I'm good enough as I am, even though I'm walking through challenges and struggles and really bad decisions. And they highlight, every time they've highlighted the most self-valued aspect in me, which is how I love and care other people. So maybe they don't treat other people like this because those people have different high self-values, different mistakes. But to me, I know that when I go to them, the thing that they value about me the most is how much I respect and love and care for them. And they acknowledge it. And then they've never said, why do you do this? Or what made you make this stupid decision? And, what are you wearing? And lose some weight or gain some weight. And like, none of those criticisms, not because I think I'm above criticism, but because they know me to be the person who will self-correct without needing their criticism of it. Yeah. And so because of that, I will do anything that I cannot say no to them. Not that they'll ever ask me, but if they do, I cannot say no to them. So that to me is what I think consider to be high vibration, is somebody who just, you can go to without being ripped apart and fully accepts you.
Yeah, and to add to that, it's kind of like, well, how do you feel after spending time with this person or the situation or consuming this sort of information media? Do you feel scared? Do you feel hateful? Do you feel less than? Do you want to like lash out? Do you feel sad? Not to say that there isn't things to be sad about, but for no other reason other than just because you're around this, it's not like you actually lost something. Or, do you feel accepted? Do you feel good enough? Do you feel valued? Do you feel loving? Do you feel at peace? Do you feel relaxed? Remember, we were talking about how a deeply relaxed state of being is very, very powerful, because then you have all access to everything that you can possibly access to your way of being. So, you can, and this is something you can experiment with. You don't have to go by what I say. Like, go watch CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, 1 hour each, and figure out how you feel, and then go spend 3 hours out in nature or 3 hours just in dead silence. And how do you feel? And probably the first experience that would mostly get put in the low vibration category. And then the second experience with nature and peace, you're probably gonna like, oh, that's a higher vibration. So it's just, are we talking about more loving, more helpful emotions, or are we talking about the emotions that are useful tools, but they're useful because they're supposed to give us a signal, we need to get out of this area and go do something else. We're not supposed to live in fear. We're not supposed to live, in jealousy or,
fear. And I think my closing point on all of this would be that, you don't even have to listen to Justin and I on any of this.
No.
Build yourself to the point where you have developed trust in your own intuition and gut and experiences. And that is what you're deciding, or your guiding path is for your truth. Yeah.
Only listen to someone in that they spark that part that is allowing you to get a better understanding of what's true for you. Mm-hmm. At a very deep and that goes beyond just what do you want, because do you even know why you want what you want? Like, because most of us think like, well, I want to have the house, and I want to have this spouse that looks this way, and I want to have a job that's got this title. Why do you want that? Is it just because everyone told you that's what makes you a good citizen or whatever? So, because maybe it's just like being homeless on the beach in Costa Rica. Maybe that's really what you want. And if that's what you want, go do it, man.
Which we did.
Not the homeless part. I really liked my beachfront hotel.
Right. Yeah.
And that's okay. You can truly want a nice beachfront hotel or a nice ski chalet. Like, that's totally fine. It's all good if that's what you want. Because more and more I try to like not say good or bad. I like to go, is this effective or ineffective?
Yeah.
Does this work for me or not work for me?
Those are your reframe qualities that I love so much, because it takes me like a half a millisecond to go from one frame of mind to another, basically.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
So did we cover it all?
I think we did.
We talked about manifesting. We talked about meditation. We talked about karma. We got to some miscellaneous stuff of vibration and masculine, feminine. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff. So I'd say just anytime someone uses a term and you're not exactly sure, find out what it means to you. Well, find out what it means to the other person too, and then decide if you want to take on that meaning or not, or use your own. And so at least you know what they mean, even though their word might be completely inappropriate. Mm-hmm. So any last things you want to share, or anything you want people to know about? Or
no, I think the world of spirituality is as much of a cult as any other world, whether it's the world of antique cars or gun shows or personal development, whatever. And there's a great deal that happened behind the scenes that the public doesn't generally know of, how some of these spiritual authors got to where they're at. So just remember that they were just the same as you before somebody decided that they were worthy of writing a book or some such thing and they became famous. Everything is accessible to you. And that's not meant to be a superior statement, but it truly is. If I could give my, what I've learned and share what I've learned in the last 10 years, it would be that anything that these top spiritual leaders have, you have it.
Well said. Yeah, we all have the potential if we want to use it.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to use it, that's your choice. We have free will. That's the free will.
Absolutely.
Well, so if you have any questions or comments about the show, email me podcast@justinwink.com. sign up to get on the email list there. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast. If you like it, rate me 5 stars in whatever one. Again, if you don't think it's 5-star worthy, send me a note. We do like to adapt because I'm here to serve you so that you can be living a life of less stress, more energy, and living your purpose. Find me on social media. I think I'm Justin Wink, Ph.D. on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm also on LinkedIn. So connect. Looking forward to seeing you. Got a lot of exciting stuff. I'm going to be doing my first in-person workshop. So if you're in the Sacramento area, June 13th, 2021. So, be following, look for that, because we'd love to connect with you in person as people are starting to get vaccinated and we can start leaving our houses and interacting more safely. So with that, thank you and good day.